Welcome to Sales and Cigars, the podcast for entrepreneurs where the only smoke we blow is cigars. I'm your host, Walter Crosby. This episode is brought to you by the Sales Integrator. Crush your sales obstacles with the Sales Integrator. Today's episode is my guest is Sara. She's with Duct Tape Marketing, and she has an interesting take on marketing from the other folks I've had on the show. She's trying to develop a model where she helps the entrepreneur take accountability, responsibility, and own their own marketing. She puts the tools in place. She helps them be able to understand. They start with strategy. Understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish, who it is you want to reach. And it's a novel approach where they break things down in simple steps and that they help you be able to do this. They can help you. They have the services to do that, but they're trying to go to this anti-marketing agency model. And she's got a book that's coming out. So go grab a cigar, grab a cocktail, strap in for another impactful episode of Sales and Cigars. Sara, welcome to the program. I appreciate you taking some time to jump on and spend some time with us.
Thanks for having me on.
Let's talk a little bit, kind of give a little background on how you got from where you were to where you are now. Talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Of course. So, Duct Tape Marketing as a business has been in business for 31 years. And I actually started the company back in December 2010 as an intern. And then since then, I've moved through multiple different roles in the company. So, I moved to community manager and then account manager for our clients, fractional CMO for our clients. I was in the COO seat, sales seat for a long time, still do a lot of our sales. And then this last December, I actually moved into the CEO seat. And so it's been a bit of a journey of growing and evolving within the company over the last 15 or so years. But Duct Tape Marketing as a company, we really have two sides of our business. And so we work directly with small business clients where we come in and we create a marketing strategy and then we serve as a fractional CMO and also oversee all of the marketing execution. And so that's what we've always done as a company for the past 31 years. The other side of our business we've been doing for about 16 years, where we actually certify and train marketing agencies, marketing consultants, fractional CMOs on how to come in and lead engagements with strategy and serve the small business audience. And so, really, two sides of our business, but both sides of our business are very focused on the small business owners and really making a difference in that space. And honestly, that's what's kept me interested over the years. I really care about the small business owners. We're a small business ourselves. My father actually started duct tape marketing, and so it's been a part of my life, my whole entire life at this point almost. And so really passionate about the small business space because, when we work with clients, when they're writing us a check for their marketing, it's really important for them that we're able to help them succeed because if we don't do our job, in some cases they might go out of business and it might impact their family life. And so I've worked with a lot of people in the small business space over the years, and I think they're really great entrepreneurs are great people. But our work as marketing advisors is really important, and that's what keeps me driven over the years.
Well, it's a great story. So, of all of those seats, intern, CMO, marketing specialist, community relations, CEO, which one was the most challenging?
Well, when I started as an intern, I didn't really know that much about business or marketing, so obviously I had a lot to learn. But there's not a lot of pressure on the intern role, so that was more fun and educational and growing
Yeah.
opportunity. The COO seat was just a natural fit for me because I'm a systems and process person. But then I've had to grow into being more of a strategic person as well. And so I'm actually like more of a strategic operator at this point in the CEO seat. But I know your show is about sales and cigars. I'm a bit of an introvert myself, and so if you would have told me 15 years ago that I would enjoy sales, I would have been like, no, no way, that's not for me. I don't want to talk to a bunch of people all day long. I'd rather just like get work done. So that one was more intimidating for me to grow into. But I've been selling for duct tape marketing and now training team on how to on how to sell, and training our certified members on how to sell effectively as well. I absolutely love selling. It's really enjoyable for me, because originally when I thought about sales, I thought of it as like high pressure, falling off of people a bunch of times, like bugging them, all that stuff. But when I got more into it, it's really about asking questions, listening, providing guidance, helping people solve problems. And so when I approach it more as like a consulting element, I really love the area of sales.
I love that perspective, because it is about helping.
Yeah.
And your story about your journey where you love working with entrepreneurs because you're adding value and helping them grow their business. If it doesn't work, people fail and struggle, and it affects lives. And in sales, it is all about finding that right solution, asking the right questions to help guide somebody. Where you're more of that, you're walking along shoulder to shoulder with them, facing the path ahead of you with your experience as to guide them. Like, look out for that branch. Watch, don't step on. There's a snake over there. Watch out for that. Right. Your expertise allows you to do that. Uh, and about being an introvert, two of the very best salespeople that I've come in contact with, they're both have been coaches and mentors to me over to this day. To me, as a coach and a mentor, intro
Yeah.
they really would prefer to be sitting behind a computer working on something, writing something, rather than having to go talk to. And I'm really the same way. I'm not. I got to turn it on and off, and it's exhausting.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but so if I'm not passionate about who I'm helping and what I'm doing, it's just not. So you got to believe in what you do,
Yes.
to be able to be effective. But when we think about sales, or when most people think about sales, the image that pops into their mind is that guy with the loud blazer and the clip-on tie with the big hair that's just being an ass and pushing and making everybody uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that is the antithesis of what you talk about, which is refreshing, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And to your point on like introverts and a couple of people being introverts and great at sales, like I think with an introvert, you're more likely to ask questions and listen and not be the center of attention. And when you're in a sales call, if you can ask the right questions and listen, at the end of the call, people will really say, like, that was a great call. I enjoyed it because you actually took the time to listen to them versus if maybe you're more dominating in conversations and they don't really get to tell their story or feel like they've been heard, it's not a great experience because I've definitely been on that side, being sold to. And so with our one of our programs, it's called our Marketing Leadership Accelerator. We have 2 people on our team that run sales. It's myself and Lisa on our team, and we have a competitor in the space that is very pushy. The salespeople are very pushy. They're doing your traditional hard close sales tactics, and it's very clear and apparent. And then they come to us because they're exploring us and the competition, and we ask questions and we provide value and we actually listen and we talk about you're here and we can help you get to here and this is how. And so we're making our story very customized to what they actually told us. And for us, it's actually a very benefit that our competitor is very pushy because people get turned off and they can see right through that. And then
yep,
they come to us and they're like, oh my gosh, y'all actually listened to my problems and guided me through conversation. It's a no brainer that we feel better with you. So I think that's a lot just comes down to, different styles of selling, but it's definitely the one I lean into more.
yeah, there's different styles, and I don't have a problem calling people out, but like a guy like Grant Cardone, right? Who's this hard pushing, hard closing sales guru, if you will.
Yeah.
He's got 2 jets. Okay. I mean, he's had success, and
Yeah.
you can't argue with that. But if that's not you and that's not authentic for you, it doesn't make you comfortable. Making money isn't always the barometer that we should use, or the measuring stick, right? Are we adding value to people? Are we helping people? And I equate sales when I'm coaching a salesperson, like when you're talking to your friend and they called you up and said, "Hey, Sarah, I had a problem. I need some advice. Can we get together for a drink later?" And so you're usually, as a human, want to help somebody.
Yeah.
So we lean into that. and we ask questions, and we're a little skeptical, curious about what's going on, and we're listening because we really want to understand. And if we get to the understanding through the listening, then, in a sales situation, we should be able to tell them that we can help them or we can't help. We should be able to give them a path forward with some specificity. And but it's not that, you know, if you know all of the hard closes that people have. To me, the close happens during the discovery process. And if we
Yep.
ask the right questions along the way, the only close is, do you think I understand your problem? Do you think I have the expertise and the experience to help you solve that problem? Would you like my help?
Yep.
Right? If we've done that, it's a yes or a no, and no is the second favorite answer. And we move on. And if we can't help them, we should have enough resources to send them someplace to get help, make an introduction.
Exactly. Exactly. And I love what you said about the curiosity piece because I do think that's so essential in sales. It's not taking an answer as is. It's like being naturally curious to say, no, let's actually dive deeper on this. Like, why are you saying this? Is it because of something else? And I think that's a huge element in sales as well as that natural curiosity to actually figure out what is going on and not just listen, directly to the words and moving on to the next bit of your script ultimately.
Right. Because scripts don't work in sales, right? Because the customer doesn't have a script, right? We gotta know what we want to do. We got to follow a process. But sometimes that curiosity is like, really, why are you doing it that way? And really kind of dive into that part, as you said. Because if we don't understand the source and we just prescribe something new, there might be a reason why a solution A would work and solution B wouldn't.
Yeah.
But it's everybody's selling. It really comes down to that. We've all have to be able to communicate and share ideas and listen. And even the best leaders, you sit in an L10 or a big room and you're with your team and you're having a strategy session. As a leader, we have to sit there and listen to everybody else.
Yep.
Probably should be the last one to speak, but we get everybody's ideas out on the table. So listening is important as a CEO as well as in the sales team. Really important as
Yeah.
an intern.
Yeah, yeah. I absolutely agree, and I think too, like, I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners over the years, and they might be, like, having some internal struggles with their team because they're trying to roll out, like, a new system or process and no one's buying into it, or something along those lines, and so my response is always, "How are you selling to your team?" This new system or process, and so I even think about it in my CEO seat whenever I'm bringing in a new platform, a new tool, new way of doing things, a shift in our business, whatever it might be, I'm always thinking about obviously like not a hard sell to our team, but it's like, how can I explain the value they're going to get out of this shift? How can I explain how it's going to solve their problems so they will buy in? And so I think as a business leader, you also need to think about, how can you explain some of that stuff in a sales perspective to your existing team to help them be comfortable with change as well.
Yeah, because nobody likes change, although it happens every day.
Yeah.
Um, but they do have to get I think it helps if you're explaining why
Yes.
we're doing this. And the why has to include the company vision, right down to the department, and then the individual,
Yeah.
right? If we connect all of those dots, somebody still might not agree, but if you've given them a voice, they either get on the train or they don't. It's really up
Yeah.
to them. But if we've given them the information and we've made a good decision, even if we make a bad decision as leaders, okay, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
We need to minimize that. So one of the things that we talked about uh, when we first met kind of struck a chord with me. Where you not really crazy about the model that's out there for marketing agencies, but the idea that strategy before tactics and strategy before technology. Can we
Yeah,
kind of get into that a little bit? What your thoughts are and how you guys approach that
of
for
course.
that entrepreneur that's listening?
Of course. So we've always said strategy before tactics for the past probably 20 years at this point. But we've recently evolved it a bit to say strategy before technology, or you can even say strategy before tactics and technology. And the reason for that shift is because there's no secret. AI is here, it's impacting marketing at a very quick rate at this point. And so I see a lot of small businesses diving into AI. And so they're bringing it into their business, but they haven't actually taken a step back and thought about what are we actually trying to accomplish from a business strategy, a marketing strategy, team strategy, which you need to think through first. And then you can answer the question of, okay, what AI solutions should we bring in to help accomplish those goals? And so when people bring in like a chat GPT and they don't think about it strategically and then they don't train it strategically, then they get inconsistent output from every single person on their team. And they also don't have any systems or processes or guidelines in place to help achieve consistency. And so we're really big on, we have something called the marketing strategy pyramid. And so that's identifying, again, the business strategy. So what are you trying to accomplish from a business perspective? So mission, vision, value, but also revenue. 1 year, 3 year growth goals. And then once you understand all of that, you can say, okay, what do we need to do from a marketing perspective to accomplish those business goals? And so that's really focusing on the marketing strategy. And then you can say, okay, once we know what we're gonna do over the next 3 months from a marketing perspective, who is on our team that can help us accomplish these things? Then you can think about AI at that point. And so for example, since again we're talking a lot about sales, one of your objectives over the next quarter might be improving your sales conversions. If that's something you're going to focus on, you might then say, okay, what AI solutions can we bring in to help increase our conversion rate? And so, one of the things that we do for sales is we record all of our sales conversations with permission. And then we get the transcripts and then we put them into ChatGPT, where we then create a summary of the themes and the words that the clients used. But we also have recommendations for how we can improve the sales conversations moving forward. And so out of those summaries, then we're creating more marketing content to send to people pre sales calls that is literally using words that other people in their situation used. And so we're really capturing voice of prospect to then nurture them and to meet any hesitations that they might have and address those even before they get on a sales call. And so, it's all comes back to thinking about what are you actually trying to accomplish? What are your biggest goals? Who do you have in place already? And then you can say, what AI systems should I bring in to help us reach those goals? Versus a lot of people are starting with the technology and then they're thinking about, okay, how do we do this strategically? And it's working backwards ultimately.
There's a couple of things that you said. I think AI is a tool in our toolbox, and the number of AI tools is ever expanding. But
Yes.
I took a short little course from Seth Godin
Nice.
um, about AI, and it was intriguing, like most of his things, because his whole goal is to get us to think differently. And I think his message is really, really important. Is that as we grow up in our education system, we weren't taught to work with AI,
Yeah.
right? Because we need to tell AI what we want it to do with great specificity, right? The prompt that we give it, the output is only as good as the prompt, uh,
Yep.
and AI is only as good as what it taught, and it's read everything, right? But if we don't learn to use it effectively, his message is that we will end up working for
Yeah.
somebody that's doing it. So when you talk about bringing in a tool like ChatGPT to use it to help understand sales conversations and understand the words that the buyer's using to be able to put that back into sales messaging and marketing messaging. I mean, you're really getting the research right because it's coming directly from the buyers, and you can see patterns that are there. Well, the patterns were there before, we just didn't see them.
That's yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you teach your team and your clients that to use AI, you gotta think differently, and you have to help push it in the right direction with the right kind of thinking, because we need to do the thinking and it'll do the tactics, but that we have to bring strategy. How do you go about teaching that at a high level? I know it's there's a lot there, but in the general
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I've been talking about in terms of now that AI is here, like what we need to focus on in marketing or just in business in general is authenticity and communication and strategic thinking and creativity, things that AI can assist us with, but things that we need to continue to focus on because AI can take a lot of the repetitive tasks off of our plate to then free up space to do those things. And so I actually just went through an exercise with my team today, and what we went through is I had everyone list like their top 10 to 15 skills that they do on a regular basis. And then I had them label them as human focused or AI assisted or AI replaceable. And so then basically out of those, they then made note of things that they absolutely love doing that lights them up, that provides a ton of value. And then I had them end with writing a new bio for themselves based on a future position, where they're leaning more into these human focused things and leaning a little bit further away from the AI replaceable or even assisted things. Because the idea is how can you future proof your career? How can you identify what you need to focus on? And so, someone on my team that's always written content, for example, like a copywriter, they've written blog posts from scratch. Before AI, they would sit down and write research and write an outline and identify keywords and write the thing from scratch and then edit it and then optimize it from an SEO standpoint and publish it. But now with AI, they're able to do a lot of that stuff with tools essentially, to assist them along the way. And so, really, in that sense, they're moving from doer to orchestrator or manager. And so that person has never managed anyone else in a lot of cases because they were, in the copywriting position. Now they're managing an AI system. And to your point earlier, AI is only good as the input you give it on the front end and then also the editing you do on the back end. And so that's still managing. You're just managing a tool instead of a person. And so people like that, then, I've identified like they need to develop management and communication and system skills and technology skills more so than they had previously. And so I think going through an exercise like that, where you're really evaluating where your value is growing and where your value is maybe decreasing, and then freeing up time to focus on those areas of where your value is growing is really important right now.
Well, I think that that speaks to Steph's point.
Yep.
You gotta go practice and use it to get comfortable and start to understand what it can do. I've used it for probably 18 months, and my first focus was teaching it 2 things: who my ideal client persona, their profile, what they look like, and I spent a lot of time detailing that. Like, this is who I love working with, this is why I love working with them, and it, just takes time and iteration and checking to make sure that it recognizes it, and then writing enough of my putting my content in there so that it can learn my voice
Yep.
and write like me. Because you can go into any of the AI tools and say, "Write copyright like Dan Kennedy," and do a sales letter that right? And they or make this sound like Alex Ramosi, all of these, icon influencers. And it there's enough out there that they know what that sounds like, but it doesn't know who our and it doesn't know our clients. So from my perspective, I spent a lot of time at the beginning teaching that and correcting it and saying, "This is my voice," and going back and forth with it. Uh, I'm curious, though. I find myself saying, "Good morning, Claude," or "Thank you, Claude," and I do it sort of out of habit, as if I'm talking to this amorphized robot. But, I mean, is that something that you have ever found yourself doing, saying thank you and good morning to a tool? Because I don't do that with a hammer or screwdriver. Same
Good
thing.
morning, Hammer. Yeah, it's funny because our team was actually laughing about that because most of the people on my team they say they're very polite. to their tools, their AI tools, and then the other half are like, "No, it's frustrating. I just want it to do what I'm asking, and it's not listening, and so I'm frustrated." And I'm like, "That your AI platform is gonna come for you one day because 'cause you're not being
Right.
nice." So I think
You
that's
never
funny. It's a funny point.
you never know if the robot's gonna rise up one day, so, like, let's be nice.
Exactly.
So, it was my original premise, I was afraid of the robot.
Yeah,
What I
exactly.
found is that it's a habit, and
Mhm.
it's weird, like, because you can learn a lot going out to dinner with somebody and how they treat the wait staff,
Yeah, yeah.
right? If they don't say thank you or acknowledge them or something like that, what does that tell you about the individual? Or if they're rude, so, I don't know, it's sort of the same thing. Not that a waiter's a robot, but, you know, you you want you wanna treat everybody or maybe everything with some level of respect. So
Yeah, I think if you're I mean, because it feels like in a lot of cases you're having a conversation, and so if you just get in the habit of being rude all the time, will that rub off into the rest of your life?
good point.
Which is
Good
interesting to think about, and to your point on going out and having dinner with someone, I spoke to someone fairly recently, and he said the last stage of his interview process is always going out to dinner with the candidate because exactly as you said, like, if the candidate is rude to the wait staff, then they might need not be the best, team player, so that was it's always been his last stage of the interview process is like, "Let's just go have dinner, let's relax, it's not gonna be an interview," but what he's looking at is how they interact with other people, so I think that's a really interesting point.
It's a lot of people, what's his name? In Omaha, investor, shit, drawing a blank on his name. But that's one of his things that whenever he would buy a company, he would take the CEO out, and
Mm,
that's what he was looking. Right, he
yeah,
wanted to have a conversation with him, but he was also seeing how he treated other people, 'cause that was
yeah.
indicative of how he would treat people. Okay, so the the you kind of explained what Duct Tape Marketing does, who it is that you love working with the entrepreneurs in that smaller space, under 50,000,000 maybe, under
Yeah, for the
100,000,000.
most part. Yeah.
So when you're looking at engaging with somebody, what do you want them to know about you, or where you want them to go to learn more about what you're doing to see if there's a fit from their perspective? Like, how do they get to know you without having a conversation? Besides listening to
Yeah. Yeah, listen to this. Our website, we post a lot of content. We've had a podcast running there since 2005. No, also LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. But we're really big on giving as much information as we can before a sales conversation. And so we have one of our concepts is called the marketing hourglass, and it's essentially mapping out how people can get to know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer from you. So we're big believers in nurturing someone throughout that whole entire experience so they become referral sources. So if you go to our website, we have guides, podcasts, all kinds of stuff, free resources that helps you get to really know, like, and trust us, case studies to decide if having a conversation from there would make sense.
and what I find is that I just read a book called Endless Customers. And one of the things that Marcus talks about in the book is about being transparent, about adding value to and letting people know what it is that we do, how we do it, and why they may or may not be a fit. And he goes so far. I'm kind of curious from a marketing perspective. He 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 encourages people to have pricing transparency
Yep.
on their websites, putting out not necessarily it costs $12.50 to do this, but ranges and guidelines so that somebody who's, "What the hell does this cost to do this?" Right?
Yep.
That they have a sense to be able to budget it. Is that something that I mean, off the top of your head, is that something that you would encourage or discourage, or, like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and Marcus Sheridan, I believe, is who you're referring to.
Yeah,
He's actually spoken at one of our events recently, so know him well. And I have a new book coming out, and he provided a quote for my new book. So, big
awesome.
fan of his work. Yeah, and I agree. Pricing transparency is really important. I think if you like think about the way I thought about it when I first heard him talking about that was like thinking about myself. So if I'm going out there and let's say I'm looking for someone to remodel our kitchen, like if I find, 5 options in Boise, Idaho, which is where I live, I'm going to look for reviews, positive reviews, just to make sure they're a good company to work with. But then I'm going to look for pricing information so I can see with if they're within my budget that I might have in mind. And if someone has no transparency and they have to make me go through all these loopholes to even figure out what an estimate would be versus if someone has great reviews and pricing transparency, I'm gonna go with the pricing transparency and the great reviews company a lot faster. And so I think it's really important, and especially with how search is changing online with different LLMs bringing in content or even featuring it on Google, you'll see like the AI generated summaries. The more information you can give and the more transparency you can provide on pricing, but also processes and how you work and what's it look like that stuff's gonna be pulled in and people are gonna see it in the AI summaries. And so I think there's two reasons for doing it. For me, it's better on the buyer, and also it's better to help with continuing to rank in AI search moving forward.
Yeah, because of the zero click now with the
Yeah.
summaries, where you don't even get the opportunity to click them. You should really move down the page. But I saw it as taking away friction,
Yep.
um,
Exactly.
and and
Which is
making
huge.
it easier for because if the buyer looks at something and says, "Holy crap, I don't wanna do that. That's way outside my budget." Okay, like, then it saves everybody time, including me, including the buyer. So, I think it just takes that friction point. And it was interesting you said you go to reviews if you're gonna redo your kitchen. You go look at reviews, and then you look at their website. Um, so how we go about buying something is almost 100%, um, correlation between how we sell.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we have to as sellers, we have to match up with the buyer, right? We can't do what we want, we gotta do what they need. Figure out what it is that they need to make the decision. Because when we redid our kitchen, it wasn't really gonna be my call. My wife was kinda driving the bus on that. Um, and I remember she she had me talk to, like, 3 different people that she liked, and one of them was hands down my my first choice. And
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about pricing. It was because she asked 2 questions out of the box. "What do you like about this kitchen? And what do you hate about this?"
Yeah.
And nobody ever asked, right? So we could share which direction, which gave her a lot of information because we both shared a ton, and I was engaged in the conversation. Now when she gave us the price, I'm like, "Do you aware of what we paid for this house? Because that's like half of, what we paid for this house." But it was well worth it, but we felt comfortable, and that was what was most important, right? That we felt comfortable that we were gonna head down the right path because the individual salesperson had the skills to understand us and then had the design skills to help make sure that what we wanted to do would actually work. Some of the little things that she did with my wife were like, "That's good. I'm gonna steal that. That was really good."
Well,
Um,
and it goes back to our earlier conversation about she asked the right questions and she was curious, and that's what won you over in that scenario.
yeah, absolutely, and it's not that hard. It's just that we don't have enough good salespeople doing that, and they just
Yeah.
need to relax and slow down. So, we've talked a little bit about if somebody wants to learn more, your website is the best place to go. If they wanna hear your voice, go to LinkedIn because you're sharing ideas there.
Yep.
So that's really you have a different perspective, so I would encourage people to if you're thinking about making changes with your marketing, go check out the website. It's all in the show notes. There's a bunch of other things in there, but you got a book coming up, that's dropping in the middle of August. Is that
Yes, that's correct. August 13th.
so? Give us the reason why we wanna the title's intriguing, but give us a reason to go to Amazon and get the book.
Of course, so it's called Unchained: Breaking Free from Broken Marketing Models. We've been a marketing agency for about 30 years, but we're shifting to what we're calling more of the anti-agency model, where we're helping our clients lead with strategy, bring in AI systems, and take ownership of their marketing, so they no longer have to just rent or outsource their marketing to vendors or partners. They can really come in and own a lot of the execution because that wasn't available until the evolution of AI, which is a lot of what we talked about in this episode. But if you're interested, if you're outsourcing your marketing, if you feel like you don't have a sense of control or clarity over what's actually happening, the book is written for small business owners to help them really take back ownership and control of their marketing efforts.
And that'll be available in Amazon. And we'll have a link in the show notes for people to go grab that.
Yep,
That
absolutely.
August 13th, I think you said you're dropping.
August 13th. Yep.
Okay. This will drop a little bit after that, but it's a great place to go learn. Anybody's got a book. There's insights in there. There's value in there. It's a chance to understand a little bit more. Sara and duct tape marketing. Yeah, tongue tied today. So last question: past or present? Any relationship with cigars?
It's a great question. I honestly don't have a close or negative relationship about cigars, but you know what they make me think of is weddings. Because I've been to so many weddings over the years where people have, gone out on the patio or the porch or whatever and ended up bringing out a bunch of cigars and celebrating together. So I honestly don't have, I've smoked, I've tried cigars over the years. I don't have like a close or negative relationship with them, but they remind me of happy times and celebrations. So I think that's a positive note.
Awesome. So celebratory cigars.
Yes.
Um, And I was just at a wedding back east, and the father of the bride, my brother-in-law, made sure he had a bunch of cigars. And it just
Yep.
turned out to be, once he was done with his speech and the music got loud,
Yeah.
us older folk moved out to this beautiful little patio. It was tree covered canopy, and I think there was like 8 of us out there
Yeah.
smoking cigars and talking smart, kind of congratulating the father of the bride, father of the
I love
groom.
it.
Appreciate the story. Thanks again for taking the time. Good luck with the book, and I love the idea of helping entrepreneurs help themselves. It's great.
Thank you, Walter. I appreciate you having me on the show.